Have you ever been so mad that you didn't even know you were mad until you heard your own voice and thought, wow, I sound like my father, and my father isn't even alive? Kind of like that Geico insurance spot where everybody's being like their parents, you know? Well, I used to be that guy who would explode if you told him to calm down. Telling me to calm down was like throwing jet fuel on a campfire. Spectacular and wildly unsafe for anyone within 30 feet. And here's what I learned the hard way: you can be seen every single day and still be invisible because people don't buy content. They buy your congruence. They buy whether you feel safe to be around. They buy whether your energy matches your message. If you resonate with that, put a one in the chat. And if you're an angry divorced man, a business owner, an entrepreneur, a high performer, a leader, you know exactly what I mean. Because you can be successful and still be the guy everyone tiptoes around. Hi, I'm Hollis Perky, and I'm an anger subject matter expert. And my purpose is to teach people how to understand, control, and channel their anger into an asset, into resilience, and into eventually a superpower. I work with a very specific group of people: angry, divorced men, business owners, entrepreneurs, and leaders, high performers who can build a company but can't stop themselves from burning down the room on a bad day. And the cost is real. In the US alone, businesses lose $2.1 billion a day due to incivility and toxic workplace environments. That's $2.1 billion a day, every day. That's not touchy feely. That's not HR stuff. That's revenue, retention, reputation, and the emotional climate people take home. But for the men that I serve, the cost isn't just business. It's marriage, it's kids, it's friendships, it's self respect. It's the brutal moment that when we realize that we are winning on paper but losing in real life. If that sounds familiar, then put a one in the chat. Now, let me give you a quick version of my history, the part that made me and the part that almost destroyed me. I was the smallest kid in class, thick glasses, ADHD, dyslexia. My eyes were crossed. I could not spell out of a paper bag. It took me years to learn how to read. But if someone pushed the wrong button on me, I would take you down, regardless of your size. They called me the kid that could, not because of my good grades, but because I could fight. But when you're that kid, confused, behind, embarrassed, anger starts to look like a superpower. Anger says, don't mess with me. Anger says, respect me. Anger says, see me. So I learned the rule early. If I get loud enough, maybe I matter. And I know I'm speaking to men in this room and women who love those men, where that rule still lives. Because a lot of men were never taught how to feel. They were taught how to function. They were not taught how to ask for what they needed. They were taught how to push through. So the only emotion that feels allowed is the one that gives you power fast. And anger does that. It's the only emotion that comes with free steroids. Hey, if that sounds like you, put a one in the chat. But here's what I didn't understand back then. I wasn't angry because I was strong. I was angry because I didn't feel safe. So I became a master of disguise. Most of the time, I was friendly, I was funny, I was warm, but underneath, ooh, I was a volcano pretending to be a picnic. But that's the most dangerous kind of anger, the kind that looks like it's normal until it isn't. So here's what most people miss about anger. Most people don't lose their relationships, their leadership credibility, or their culture from one giant blowup. They lose it from 1,000 tiny leaks. From the sarcasm, from the cold tone, from the "I'm fine," from the silence that punishes, the joke that cuts too deep, or the "per my last email" energy. Oh. Or if you've ever been on the receiving end of that, just nod. You don't have to acknowledge that. But here's what's heartbreaking. A lot of men don't even realize they're doing it. They think they're being direct. They think they're being clear. They think they're living with high standards. But what the room feels is fear. And fear creates two things. People hide mistakes, and people stop telling the truth, which means that your strong leadership becomes a blindfold. If that's you, put a 1 in the chat. Then came the moment I realized something brutal. My anger was winning, not just in the moment, but over time. Because anger always charges interests. It costs trust, it costs culture, it costs intimacy, it costs deals, it costs you your sleep, it costs you the ability to enjoy anything you've built. And one day I heard my own tone, and I watched someone go quiet right in front of me. Not because they respected me, because they feared me. And something in me cracked open. I thought, this is not who I want to be anymore. If you want to change, put a 1 in the chat. Because here's what anger does when you're honest. It doesn't hurt other people, it hurts you. The shame afterwards, the replay at 3 a.m., the thing that keeps you awake, the apology that you don't know how to make without feeling weak. That inner voice that says, you did it again. And for divorced men, sometimes divorce wasn't the first loss. It was the final invoice. So, this is what I learned. I learned how anger actually works and how it hijacks the brain and floods the body with all sorts of chemicals, and it narrows the perception. So I started catching my automatic negative thoughts and automatic negative reactions. It's not an easy process, but it can be done. Because anger doesn't start with yelling, it starts with one sentence. He disrespects me. She's doing this on purpose. I always have to do everything. This shouldn't be happening. That sentence becomes emotion. Emotion becomes reaction. Reaction becomes habit. And habit becomes reputation. And reputation becomes destiny. Then I learned the shift that changed my life. Anger isn't the enemy. Anger is data. Anger is my system saying a boundary is being crossed. A value matters here. I'm scared. I'm hurt. I don't know how to ask for what I need, so I'm going to attack you instead. And yes, that is a terrible strategy for intimacy. Shockingly, attack first does not create closeness. If that sounds familiar, put a 1 in the chat. So here's the micro tool that I teach because it works in real time. Pause for 2 seconds. Name it. I'm angry at. Locate it. Where in the body? Is it your jaw, your chest, your fists, your stomach? Ask it, what are you protecting? And then channel it. What would power look like without punishment? Because when anger is unconscious, it becomes destruction. When anger is channeled, it becomes direction. Now, here's the twist. When I got angry, when I got my anger under control, my visibility changed. Not because my captions got better, not because I bought a funnel, not because I got more confident, because my energy got cleaner. And that made people lean in. Here's the truth. Visibility is not a marketing problem for most coaches. It's a congruency problem. People can feel when you're selling calm while leaking chaos. They feel when you're selling leadership while your life is on fire underneath. They can feel your words are polished, but the nervous system is not. So, the first visibility hack is this: become the thing you're selling. That's why I'm so passionate about angry divorced men entrepreneurs, because I am not trying to make them nice. I'm trying to make you free. If you want that, put a 1 in the chat. Now, LinkedIn has always been one of my strongest places for visibility because that's where leaders live. But here's what works on LinkedIn: not perfection, not motivational quotes. Truth with leadership works. My best posts are the ones that I say things like, if your team is quiet, it's not because they're focused, they're scared. If your wife left you and you swear it happened out of the blue, it didn't. If your business is stalling and your patience is shrinking, it's not strategy you're missing, it's emotional leadership that you need. The LinkedIn formula is simple: specific person plus specific pain plus specific promise equals a positive response. And that's how you get DMs like, man, you just described me. Also, LinkedIn always has one guy that always comments, not all men. And I'm like, sir, you just responded to an anger post. You just proved my whole brand. Okay, so let's move on. Instagram is where people decide, do I like him? Do I trust him? Is he real? Instagram is a proof of life. For my niche, Instagram works best when I interrupt the pattern. If you're clenching your jaw right now, you're not fun. If you're winning at business and losing your family, you're not winning. If you keep saying it's not that bad, that's denial wearing an expensive suit. And then I give one tool, one question, one boundary. How would your life change if you were in control of your emotions? Short, clean, useful. Now, let's talk about visibility tricks that many coaches ignore because they're not flashy. They're called borrowed audiences or other people's audiences, OPAs. They are rocket fuel, and they really work, especially for someone like me, because my work requires trust. Podcasts are a trust machine. When someone interviews you, the host is basically vouching you, and the listeners hear you in their car, in their earbuds, or on their walk, and your voice goes straight into their nervous system. That creates intimacy fast. I've had people message me months later and say, I feel like you've been talking to me for an hour. That's not content. That's connection. Then there's the radio and TV. Some audiences don't take you seriously. They just put great post after great post after great post, and they just scroll right past. But if you have a TV anchor says, we have anger Hollis Perky here, and suddenly your Uncle Larry thinks you're Oprah. But then there's reposts. A repost is a visibility multiplier because you enter the room already trusted. So I don't have to write posts that are so powerful. I write them to be shared. I give language that it says something about what they couldn't articulate. That's why reposts explode your visibility and reach a strong group of people. It shows that you can help people in many different ways of life. If you teach a workshop in somebody else's group, like a men's group, a chamber of commerce, or masterminds, you skip the algorithm. You don't need more followers. You need the right room. Then There's newsletter shoutouts. A mention in a newsletter feels personal, like someone walked you into the room and said, "You need to meet this guy." That's visibility with warmth. And then there are the small stages. Small stages are underrated. The ones that at LinkedIn or Facebook events, those kinds of things, people don't scroll away. They feel you. Then there's the oldest visibility tool around, networking. Not traditional networking. Real networking is not about collecting contacts, it's about collecting trust. I stopped trying to sound impressive and started being memorable. I said, I help angry divorced business owners stop burning down their lives and start channeling their anger into emotional mastery, leadership, and profits. And people always lean in because if you say the things that other people are unwilling to say, you become unforgettable. Here's the secret move. When someone tells you their story, don't respond with advice, respond with presence. Man, I totally get that. That makes complete sense. You are not crazy. Dude, that is heavy. Those 4 sentences will build more visibility than 400 posts. Well, let me tell you why my niche is angry divorced men, entrepreneurs, and business owners. Because those men are not bad men. They are not villains. They are exhausted. They are carrying pressure, and nobody's checking on them. They don't know how to say, I feel alone. I feel ashamed. I feel like I failed. I don't know how to fix this. So it comes out as anger. And the world responds with, they're monsters. And they start believing it. If that sounds familiar, put a 1 in the chat. But anger is often grief in disguise. Often fear in armor. Anger is often fear looking for language. And when you hand the man a language to talk about what's underneath, you don't just change his temper, you change his life. You change his life. You change the way his kids see him. You change the way his employees see about him. You change the way he sees himself. So yes, leaders create congruent cultures and strong teams so they can lead with emotional mastery and develop happier employees and raise their profits. And I'll say it plainly, I love helping leaders do that. A regulated leader makes money. Fear kills innovation, fear kills freedom, fear kills, but truth leads through. So I help you get your team, your congruency, your culture back on path so you can make an additional $1 million in 2 years. And I back my statement with a guarantee. Now, if you're an angry divorced man, an angry, or you're entrepreneur, and the anger is affecting your business, I'm not here to shame you. I'm here to give you the reins. If you want to help me right now, put a 1 in the chat. And if you like what I'm talking about, like and share on the comments in the visibility experiment, in the comments section below. Because the world doesn't need more leaders pretending that they're fine, while quietly poisoning their culture, their relationships, and their life. The world needs leaders who feel the fire and can aim it. So let's connect, and let's teach you how to channel that anger.